Shalom, Mishpachah. This is here Yao checking in. As you guys can see, I am in a different background. We are in a different area than Africa right now. We are in the United States right now. Um, we've had to come back because of some health problems with my family. So we've got to come back and be of service to my family, just to keep it 100% with you guys. So we are back in America right now, back in Babylon, back in the belly of the beast, you guys. And of course, being here, it is nostalgic. It is good to see family. It's good to be able to reconnect and make sure that we're doing the right thing by our people. But, it is also the same old here. The same old, excuse me, propaganda techniques, the same old uh, feeling. When you first see the police sirens flash by you, you're like, oh my God, I hadn't had to worry about that in a long time. And, the same mentality from, everybody. It always amazes me to see the differentiation between what's on the internet and what's on the ground, because it does seem like people are, you can tell, especially in certain communities, you can tell who is on your side and who is not, just by the way that the interactions go. But shalom, shalom, we've got somebody on here. But yeah, just to give you guys an update, we are back in Babylon, and we will be here for a good little moment. So I just did want to give you guys an update. Since we are in Babylon, the shalom, shalom. How you doing, my brother? Yes, yeah, you too, my brother. You too. Peace be upon you. We're just here, take care of family right now. But just to be up on current events, we know that there are a lot of things that happened, recently in news. I do need to get back on the news program. We will be able to be streaming, live. And since we're on this side, it will be a better connection. So we'll be able to do some live broadcast with interaction and all of those different things. I do also have another Magog video coming out. I've been editing it on the African side, but I haven't quite finished it up yet. I'm trying to see if I want to break it down into sections or put the whole thing out at once. I have enough material right now to put out a part one, but I'm not sure if I want to do that because I want to make sure that the entire message is adequately depicted. So I don't know if I want to break it up just yet. With the things going on in the news, the first thing that I wanted to talk about was, of course, Malcolm Jamal Warner. They call him America's brother. Made Theo Huxtable on the Cosby Show, and there's just a lot of stuff going on with him. I've seen a lot of breakdowns with numbers and gematria about, how he was a sacrifice. Yeah, to me, gematria is definitely not the number one tool that you want to use in order to, you know, confirm that this is, an industry hit. I don't think you have to even go that route to know that Hollywood is destroying and killing black men. I don't think you have to go the gematria route. I think that you can look at, the history behind industry heavyweights like Malcolm Jamal Warner and know off the bat that he was sacrificed. I don't think that you need to go into the gematria numbers to do that. But what you do see is that in the time leading up to his death, he was putting out a lot of information against the industry, against rap music, against the way that we have been treated as a people, as a society in America. Um, and then just on the strength of that alone, know that this was a sacrifice automatically. Any sudden, mysterious, untimely death from anybody in the industry, whether they be black, white, brown, anything, is automatically suspect. We had a couple, I can't remember, what was his name? Gene, famous actor. Hadn't been, in a lot of movies in a long time. He played in Hunt for Red October back in the day. I'll tell you how old I am. I remember Hunt for Red October. His name is Gene Hackman. Was it Gene Hackman? Recently, in the past year, he died mysteriously, in his house with his wife. We know automatically that that was a murder, just by the mysterious events surrounding it. And just like that one, this is a white actor, with his wife, and I think his wife was Asian. Just like that one, before you even look into that one, the mysterious, events surrounding it lets you know that it was a sacrifice, the way that it happened. Gene Hackman. Yep, Gene Hackman. So yeah, the circumstances surrounding his death are so mysterious that you automatically know that this was an industry hit. And so just like, and there's another guy. His name is Randy Quaid. There's two Quaids. There's Dennis Quaid and Randy Quaid. And Randy Quaid is the one that years ago started his campaign called the Star Whackers. Have you guys ever heard of Randy Quaid and the Star Whackers? That he had came out publicly and said, hey, these Hollywood elites, these Hollywood Ashkenazim elites are actually assassinating people on a regular basis. And you got to watch out because the murders in the industry or the deaths that are in the industry are not natural deaths, they murders. And he's had this stance for a very, very long time. And, I don't know why he's still alive. Makes me think that, because there's two aspects to these murders, these industry murders. The first aspect is that they do cover them up. They make them look like suicides. They make them look like accidents. They make them, accidental drowning, car wreck, but then also suicide. But on the other side, they, in the industry or in this black magic, spectrum of propaganda, they expose themselves to. They put out information themselves that implicates them in these murders. Because if you're a serial killer and you want people to fear you, do you see what I'm saying? You have to let people know that are in the industry that these are things that are happening. And so they'll put out, because Randy Quaid, if you remember Randy Quaid, he was in Independence Day, right? He was in the movie Independence Day with Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum and all them people. And he played the conspiracy guy in in Independence Day. So he's actually playing that role in real life too, which is, beyond coincidence. Do you see what I'm saying? In my opinion, beyond coincidence. I believe that it's part of this, occult spectrum to where that they not only have to reveal themselves in certain ways, but it benefits them too because you can use this as a threat. Hey, that guy Randy Quaid is talking about these star whackers. He's not crazy. If you, get out of line, the things that he's saying is happening to other people can happen to you. We've seen the Anne Hesh video where she's getting up out of her stretcher and trying to get out of the ambulance. She's trying to get out of the ambulance because she knows that the ambulance operators are going to kill her. And that's absolutely what happened to her. And for that to be the case, the 911 operator, the police, the fire department, the ambulance service, all, and I mean all, have to have been in on this murder because you've got first responders showing up and not putting the C collar on her. We've talked about this, not strapping her to the gurney. Any of you guys that have been medically trained as first responders or of any medical training, you know that there's a procedure that you go through when you come to a scene with a potential C-spine injury. First thing you do is immobilize the patient. You put that C collar on them. Next thing you do is you check for their airway and all that, and then you immobilize them to the stretcher, right? None of that happened, which tells us automatically that it was murder, that this woman was just murdered. In like fashion, we have just recently Malcolm Jamal Warner, turning up mysteriously dead. There have been a lot of questions about why weren't there any lifeguards on the beach. There are some beaches without lifeguards. We live in Africa. I've never even I've never even seen a lifeguard in Africa, let alone anybody trying to help or save anybody, anything like that. Never even seen a lifeguard. Y'all, I ain't never even seen a lifeguard in Africa. But besides all that, we know that there was an additional swimmer that was out there with him. His daughter was out there with him. There was, just some mysterious events that happened. And then in the days and months leading up to his death, he was very active in speaking out against Hollywood. He even went as far, and this is, some of the research that I've been doing. He even went far enough to say that he doesn't support Bill Cosby in the things that he was doing. We know Bill Cosby was caught in some really nefarious actions, right? Hey, hey, what's up, son? Is granddad? Hey, granddad.
Hey there.
Dad.
I
We out here with the family right now. This is my dad right here. Say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
All right, you guys. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna set the phone down and I'm gonna come back to it right here. Give me one moment.
I'm
Hey, Daddy, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to
All right, my apologies, you guys. It says Malcolm Jamal Warner mentioned on stage that Hamashiach was black and called out the false white deception of our king. Hallelujah. I haven't seen that video, but I'd like to see it. I was putting something together. I was trying to put something together on him to put out a short video of some of the things that he's done and some of his contributions to the conscious community, because we, of course, these are things that we understand, and everyone in the industry understands these things. So if you'll put the link to that one in the chat, then that would be much appreciated, because this is information that we now we have to look at this as one of the martyrs for our community, you guys, on the same level as ML King and as Malcolm X, as Medgar Evers, as Tupac, as Biggie. These are the martyrs of our community. and we need to, promote them and highlight their contributions to our understanding of, the reality that we live in. I want to get into Martin Luther King too, because there's some new information that came out about Martin Luther King, about his push for reparations, you guys, that he actually requested $20 billion a year for African Americans in America, for reparations. And that was, something that came out right before his murder, that he was actually murdered for this reason, because this was the major push, or the next major push, in his, of course, movement for the community. And I mean, that's an important thing, because this is something that has, everybody listened to what Martin Luther King said, on both aisles, black, white, everybody listened to him. So now we know why. And not only that, you guys, I also read, and this is another thing that I wanted to put out. I also read that he was an Israelite, you guys. He recognized, understood, and preached that he was Israel. Listen, you guys, I wasn't a fan coming first into, we of course all grew up on MLK, but first coming into the truth, I was not, I kind of turned on MLK, because, of course, being a Christian preacher, we automatically associate Christian preachers with the people that have been spreading the false narrative of Messiah, the false narrative of the law, the false narrative of history concerning our people. And I also, I've been looking for the full video. I only seen it through another YouTuber's video. I will link to that video after the live is posted. Absolutely, I really appreciate that, brother. But we have, kind of turned our back on Christian preachers because of the history and the propaganda that they themselves have been spewing. We know the scripture says, "Woe unto the pastors that lead their sheep astray." I believe that's in Ezekiel 30. It's in Ezekiel. Um, but we have looked at them as the false pastors, the false shepherds, right? That have been leading us to destruction and leading our people towards, misunderstanding. But that's not absolutely the case for Martin. And again, not only that, we have seen Martin's history, as far as Martin Luther King's history, as far as him being, kind of involved in the communist movement, and being, kind of a pawn on the in the underbelly of American society. We know that he was protected before he was assassinated. So does that mean that he was an agent and then changed when he recognized the truth? Did he have the truth all along? And in being an agent, he did whatever he could to get the truth out. How does it work, right? How does the system work to where that you can have celebrity status and then also the truth, and stay alive? Do you see what I'm saying? Can't be an easy road. Has to be a tightrope balancing act to have the truth and know that if you put it out that you're going to die, right? So this is what Martin was doing. He was literally putting out and preaching. I never recognized that the sermon that he did, that I may not get there with you to the promised land. I'm on the mountaintop and I can see the promised land. The one, do you see what I'm saying? And everyone, every member of his you guys remember the sermon. When he said, I'm on the mountaintop. I may not get there with you, but I can see the promised land," and everybody's cheering and clapping. And I resonated with that because just going through the struggle and going through the civil rights movement as he did. I didn't, but like he did, I'm resonating with the correlation. Do you see what I'm saying? With slavery and with oppression, and with the Israelites, and we at every moment, at every turn, we believe that he's making the comparison, but not establishing that that comparison is prophetic. And when we hear the members of his congregation clapping and cheering because he's mentioning these things, we say, okay, well, this is because of the civil rights movement, because of all the stuff that's going on now, and it's in comparison to the Jews. But in actuality, his congregation is clapping and cheering so hard because they recognize that it's prophetic. And we didn't recognize that when he's giving this sermon, that he's actually not just, making the correlation, but making the connection to ancient Israel and us today. He knew it, they knew it then, we didn't know it listening to him. Because why? We have the sermon out of context. I saw a document that said that he believed and supported and preached that Israel was Black America. That Martin Luther King was an Israelite, in knowledge was an Israelite, and preached Israelite doctrine. Didn't preach the law, didn't preach, necessarily the keeping of the commandments. He had Christian doctrine, but was definitely aware that he was an Israelite and put it out in his message. In like fashion today, you have people like Malcolm Jamal Warner who had to, under veiled and in code, put these messages out. And I'm not saying Malcolm Jamal Warner was a saint by any means. Is it Jeremiah? Is that in Jeremiah? Okay, the woe to the shepherds that lead their sheep astray. Thought it was in Ezekiel. We can look for it here in a minute. If it's in Jeremiah, it's in Jeremiah. But what I'm saying is that in like fashion, like Martin Luther King, there were a lot of veiled attempts to put out the truth in people that are celebrities today. And so Malcolm Jamal Warner would have fell into this category, you guys, because it appears that from everything that I'm seeing that he was doing, he was trying to put out some information about the community, and this is what got him killed. And I'm not saying that he was a saint either, because what I was looking for is his connection to the cult. And this is the strange thing that we have, is that how can you be in the cult and in the truth, you guys? How can you be both? Can you be in the cult and in the truth? We know he was in the cult because there's an episode of the Cosby Show where Theo himself, and I can't remember if it was the first season or the second season, where he was experimenting with witchcraft, right? Maybe with the Ouija board. I remember it because it was in, I saw it recently, within the last few years, where he was coming upstairs, going to his room, and in the show, in the Cosby Show, and he was with a couple of his buddies, and they were, talking about, I believe it was a Ouija board or black magic, and I look, and there's the one eye, there's the all-seeing eye with the pyramid on his wall in the back, and that's something that I never noticed, and I went and looked recently for that poster on his wall in his room in some episodes in the first season, and I couldn't find it, right? But I remember that particular episode being there with him being the focus of the occult activity, with him right there in the middle as the focus, as, on the show, literally promoting it in a subliminal fashion, you guys. Promoting the cult aspect in a subliminal fashion. And then even in the show, his name is Theo, which we know, or Theodore, which we know means gift of God, quote unquote, in Greek. And so we are acutely aware that the people that are in Hollywood have their positions in Hollywood because they have pledged some sort of allegiance to the adversary. We cannot overlook that whatsoever, even in terms of Martin Luther King, you guys. The reason why he was able to get his platform in the way that he was is because he was being used by the adversary on an intimate level in some ways, you guys. No matter how we feel about ML King, no matter how much we, love his presence and the history and all of these things, he was being used by the occult in some form or fashion because he was allowed to do the things that he did. He was being used. We know the same thing about Malcolm X too, because we know that Elijah Muhammad was being used. And if you're a disciple of Muhammad, then of course you're being propagandized to be put out there into the community to do a certain thing, right? We know that all the celebrities are compromised in one fashion or another by the adversary and had to be either willingly or unwillingly promoting the propaganda that the adversary would use. And so this is the case for Malcolm X. This is the case for Martin Luther King. And once they stray too far into the truth aspect, once they get too close, and once they begin to have influential, I guess, sway over the community in the direction that they don't want, the Ashkenazim don't want us to go, then they're assassinated. And I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Then they're assassinated, you guys. There are so many links to ML King towards, Ashkenazim control, even from a very, very far back. That is, you can't even deny it. Even the initials MLK are Moloch, right? That term Moloch means king. His name is Martin Luther, which is the person that, of course, Martin Luther was the head of the Reformation in the Catholic Church. Was it the 92 doctrines that he went and hammered on the wall in the 1600s? This is Martin Luther, who was the start of the Protestant movement to get away from Catholicism. Now, he didn't actually want to form a whole new religion. He just wanted to reform Catholicism. But again, this is a reference to a religious and political figure who has a similar role in history as ML King did. And not only that, his initials spell out Moloch, which is in Hebrew king. I mean, Melech means king. So Mem Lamed Kaf is king, and his name is Martin Luther King. I don't think that is a coincidence. I think in these circles of occultists that they develop these people who have these coincidental, aspects to their life that serve a purpose, spiritually. And I don't think it's just the occult that does this. I do think that over all of that, it's Elohim that is actually guiding and pushing people in certain directions and allowing these connections to be clear so that the sign can be there for us to see. Whether the devil's trying to use it for his own purposes or not, I believe these signs are all there so that we can see the truth and understand the truth. Jeremiah 23:1, there you go. I really appreciate that, brother. Satan being in control certainly uses music and entertainment to guide and control music. Satan being in control certainly uses music and entertainment to guide and control minds. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And we can see that happening in real time. We can see people even trying to escape, right? Who was that? What was her name that sung, the doo-wop style? She was from England, and they killed her. And man, she was one of my favorite. I actually was living in England at the time. She had an album called Back to Black, and I bought the album. It was produced by a guy named Mark Ronson, and he's one of those styles of producers that was like retro, that had the 60s, 70s feel to all of his production. Mark Ronson, he came from England as well. He produced another woman in England that had a kind of similar style. But this woman, what was her name? You guys remember her name? I can't remember, but it was Back in Black was her album. And she sung this doo-wop, and she had the bun. If you guys remember her, she was from England. And when I lived in England, she was very, very popular. She was alive then. And I believe while I was there, she died. but there was an interview that she did that was, really, eye opening, because she was on TV, she was on national TV, and she goes on to say that they tried to bend her into the triangle shape, but she was not having it. And I mean, it sounds even out of place. She was being interviewed on TV, and they asked her a question like, "Hey, what do you think about da 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 da? What do you think about this? What do you think about your rise to fame?" And she said, "Oh, it's great." But they tried to bend me into the triangle shape, and she actually throws the diamond sign like like Jay-Z. She says, "They tried to bend me into the triangle shape, but I'm not having that." And they say, "Oh, okay." And then next thing you know, she turns up dead, right? And so we recognize that these influential people that are using the culture, literally using black culture, Israelite culture, in order to influence the masses, are all a part of this underground, secret, occultic practice, belief system that controls everything that they do. And if they get too far to the right, too far to the left, they will, be, or let's put it like this: if they get back on track and then back to the front, to one foot in front of the other, then they take them out. They take them out as clear as day, you guys. We know that from um, uh, Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston went and fellowship with the community in Dimona, right? Whitney Houston was in Israel, fellowshipping with the Dimona Hebrew Israelites. She was baptized in the Jordan River. She gave an interview in Israel where she's standing on the plane or coming off of the plane, and she's taking pictures and all that, her and Bobby. And she says directly, this feels, she's like, "How you feel?" They were like, "How you feel, Whitney?" And she says, "This feels like home." And so, again, in this cryptic, under the radar, supposedly under the radar type of messaging, you have many, many, many black celebrities that are in the truth and in the cult. And when you have that combination, you can automatically see that they get taken out very, very quickly. Reggie White. You guys are familiar with Reggie White, linebacker for the Green Bay Packers. Once he left football, he went and became a minister. And not only just a minister, a rabbi. He went after he got out of the NFL and became a rabbi, you guys, and was putting out information about us being the children of Israel in the 90s. And they killed him on Christmas Eve or a couple days before Christmas. They killed him. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. They, shot him with the heart. I believe the mainstream reason for his death. That if you see the church hearings with the heart attack gun that they can just pop you with, you know that this was a method by which and then because he's overweight, because he's a football player, it's really easy to believe that okay, well, he just had one, sandwich too many, he was eating wrong. But if he's a rabbi, he's not eating any pork or anything like that. He's going to be in better shape than he was when he was playing football because he's eating better, right? So this heart attack out of nowhere is definitely an indication that he was murdered, because we know that they have the technology to give someone a heart attack through, this gun that freezes an ice pellet with a specific type of poison that gives you a heart attack instantly, and then like evaporates from your body or disseminates into your body so well that it's undetectable, you guys. So any industry, anything that is associated with heart attack, you automatically want to look at it closely, because it has the potential to be one of their murders. And more than the potential, the likelihood of being one of their murders. Do you see what I'm saying? We know from Reggie White, we know from Whitney Houston, we know from just a multitude of different people that have come close to that truth, that have come to the borderline of saying, "Hey, this is the way that it is." and since it's been out of their control, they have taken this down and taken it and reverted it back to the way that, or taken the person out to revert the mindset back to the way that it was before. You can tell if Martin Lawrence, is running through the streets waving a gun. They're trying to kill me. They're trying to kill me. And this is not something that he was known for doing. He wasn't, some schizophrenic, mental patient that was escaped from the loony bin. But that's the way that they're going to try to play it. Dave Chappelle got on Oprah and said, Martin is a strong guy. He was, was Martin Golden Gloves in Detroit? I can't remember if he was actually in Detroit or not, but I remember him being Golden Gloves. He said Martin Lawrence was a tough guy. Now, he come from the struggle. So how in the world is he going to be in the middle of traffic, waving a gun like people are trying to kill him, like snapping overnight? Maybe there's something going on in the industry that's sick. This is what Dave Chappelle is saying. Again, towing the line of releasing information that would be detrimental to people that don't want that information out. Do you see what I'm saying? And you have a lot of people that are like that. You had Cam Newton that was hit, wasn't he? Cam Newton that was hit in a car just out of nowhere, way back in the day, that he got into this wild accident out of nowhere. You have to look at it like the movie The Game with Michael Douglas, where they're just literally trying to kill you, right? We know that in the community of Hollywood, that there are these secret, you know, underground, established satanic doctrines. You need help?
Definitely needs to use the bathroom. He wants to get up without asking.
What do you got to do? All right, just go ahead. And so right now the boys are doing Revelation 1 through 5. They're taking their test on that. But of course, we know in Revelation 2:9 and 3:9, there are these individuals that are, claiming to be Jews and are not, and are the synagogue of Satan, right? And so we recognize for a fact that that group is a whole different group than the groups that are, doing the same thing today. But we also recognize that there are groups today that are doing the same thing. And that group, the Ashkenazim, are literally the the leaders of the world right now. They are the absolute leaders of the world. And we know that Ashkenaz comes from the line of, or the family of Magog, right? We know that Ashkenaz is the son of Gomer, and that Magog and Gomer were at odds with each other in the Eurasian steppe. But we also know that they joined in together at one point in time um, in the future, right? And so we know that Magog, Ashkenaz, Gomer, Riphath, and even to a certain extent Tiraz, Rus, and then all of these different people that are in that community of Japheth, all joined together to form the tribes of Magog, and now are in control of society in their different places all around the world. We can see in the news now, the big thing that's coming out is these Epstein files, right? Oh, Trump was in the Epstein files. These people were, are they going to release them? Are they not? You guys have to recognize that this is all part of the play, that they're actually releasing this negative information about Trump that's been around for 25 years already. This information has been out in public for 25 years. And they want to make it seem like right now, ooh, they're getting ready to release the files. What's going to happen next? But what is not being recognized really in my mind is that this is a part of the soap opera, that they are able to spill the beans about these things because it draws attention. And not only does it draw attention, but if the person that they are slandering with the, of course, evidence that he's on this plane with underage women or underage girls, and that this is a whole society in politics behind the politics that you see, they're releasing this information out, and nothing happens to them. That strengthens the candidate. Do you see what I'm saying? That if they can survive, they calling them Teflon Don, right? Teflon Don. So if he survives the politically the attempt at assassination, then it strengthens him as a character. It strengthens him as a candidate to where that there's nothing that you can do for anything that he wants to do. And not only that, you can string it along and put out a kernel at a time. Oh, he did this. Oh, he did this. Oh, he did this. And then allow the people on the other side, the Democrats, to think that they are winning. If you remember the last time that he was president, all of this information was coming out about he was Russian and the dossiers and all of this stuff. And they're just kerneling it along with Hillary Clinton and with all of the people on the Democratic side to make it appear as if they're getting ready to actually move on Trump. They're friends. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are friends. And what people don't recognize is that they're literally playing a role in society so that you will have something to watch on TV. It's political theater. You know, I'm at my folks' house right now, and of course, they're eating it up like butter, right? Yes? Okay, I'm coming in. I'm getting ready to wrap it up right now. And they are really, okay, and they are really stringing people along with this kernel after kernel of salacious information so that people will be tuned in to what's going on. And so you have literally a ratings grab or I guess you could call it a, a, a soap opera that is happening in politics right now where people are literally hanging on every word on both sides. And you've got the MAGA crowd that are literally supporting Trump with all of, the sinful nonsense that he's doing, with Epstein. They're supporting him in that. And then you've got the Democratic side, which are so ready to destroy Trump that and Elon and all of these people that they're out there burning down like cyber trucks. They're attacking Tesla dealerships because of Jasmine Crockett. And I'm in the house and I'm seeing Jasmine Crockett and I'm seeing Trump and I'm seeing all the propaganda. I'm like, yo, you cannot be unaware that this is what's happening to you. This is the way that you're propagandized. You're being pushed into a mindset to where that if you choose either side, that you're being made into a hypocrite. Well, wait, you're going to go fight Donald Trump by burning somebody's Tesla down? What sense does that make? Okay, what does that do for you? What does that do for the understanding of your people that you're going to go burn down a Tesla factory? But this is what this congresswoman, Jasmine Crockett, is promoting. And I'll be doggone if that propaganda, and I'm here in, my parents' house, so, honor your father and mother. But I'll be doggone if that same narrative didn't come out of my folks' mouth. Like, oh, I'd be out here doing the same thing if I was younger. This is not that. This is, I said, that woman's a terrorist. Jasmine Crockett is a terrorist because she is promoting terrorism. Trump is a terrorist because they're promoting terrorism. These people are literally terrorizing the community. That's what they're doing here in this country with not only the propaganda, but also the policy, you guys. And it is, it just is, in my mind, is just very, very obvious. But you really have to tread lightly when you discuss these things because, you'll mess around and end up on the other side of the propaganda. Like, wait a second, maybe you're the problem too. Do you see what I'm saying? In my mind, this is Bible study. In my mind, when you look at Daniel chapter 10, is it chapter 10, where he is going to fight the Prince of Persia, or where the the archangel Michael had just come from battling the prince of Persia and is now on the way to battle the prince of Grecia. And so, it says at the end of that chapter, and there is no one who stands with you but Michael, your prince. And that's really funny that you've got Michael Jackson and Prince opposing opposing stars, and then in Daniel you've got Michael, who is Prince. It's just really strange, coincidental connections to Scripture and our people. But you have to recognize that when he's fighting the Prince of Persia, he's fighting the fallen angel that is in charge of Persia. That he's going from that and fighting the fallen angel that is in charge of Grecia. We know that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against powers, against principalities, against the rulers of darkness in heavenly places, you guys, from Ephesians. Heavenly places means, and the prince of the power of the air. You know who the spirit is that is in the hearts of those that are blinded. Do you see what I'm saying? So we're not just battling people. And I mean, we may not even be battling people at all. We're battling the spirits that are coming through the TV. We're battling the spirits, the witchcraft that is being put out by Babylon. Remember in Revelation 21, the heart of the sorcery is coming out of Babylon. And this literally, on a daily basis, is what our struggle is, because we are walking around with this knowledge in our minds and nobody else is walking in the same way. We have the spirit and we're walking in the spirit, but everybody else is propagandized in a different way. So that's dangerous. Me coming from Africa, where everybody kind of recognizes how the West is, and even though they want to go here and want to be here to use the West and the money of the West, they recognize what's going on there. They're not, you know, blind to the truth about who Babylon is. In West Africa, in Ghana, they are really big on reggae. And reggae and dance hall and Jamaican culture is all Israelite culture, you guys. You know that Rastafarianism is a sect of Judaism, is a sect of ancient Judaism. Even though, is following this Ethiopian guy who is, not on the level, it is literally based in ancient Judaism, you guys. These are people that keep the Sabbath. These are people that eat, healthy. These are people that grow their hair out in locks, in a religious fashion. They understand. They know who the people are in Jamaica. Under the same they're not under the same style of propaganda that we are under. A lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them. And that same mentality has passed over into Africa as well. So you have a really dense and really, I guess you could say, influential community in Ghana that understands all these things. My tailor, he's got a little half container, and in his half container, he's got all of the images on the wall of all of the disciples, and they're all black. They all got locks. You see what I'm saying? So we've got an understanding on that side, and no understanding on this side. You guys see what I mean? And I'm gonna have to go ahead and get off of here, but we will be doing more of these lives. We will get back into doing the news program, because there's a lot of stuff on Trump and Epstein. There's a lot of stuff on Martin Luther King that just came out, and then we are going to investigate Malcolm Jamal Warner's death. There's going to be, I haven't said anything yet on it publicly until just now, because I'm waiting on the information to trickle out so that I can speak with wisdom on the subject. I don't want to just go into gematria like you see a lot of these guys doing. Up 133, that must mean da 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 da. Up 256, that must mean this. That's bunk, you guys. Don't really pay any attention to that. The way that you spot the sacrifice is through numerology, as far as in dating, like what date that he died on. Numerology as far as, I mean, not numerology, but foreshadowing, as in, putting this information out in television broadcast and, things like that foreknowledge also points the finger. And then any discrepancies with the crime scene. And you have to have those three elements. The dating numerology is in what day he died on. If there's any occultic significance to the date, they use dating a lot. They foreshadow in the media. If you can see any foreshadowing with him personally or in shows that he was in, or even all the way back to the Cosby Show, you guys, that foreshadow these times, this particular style of death even. And then with the crime scene itself, with strange and weird things showing up in the crime scene. That is how you identify and sacrifice, not through gematria. If you've got the three elements before and then you use the gematria after the fact, yeah, you can incorporate it in, but you can't start with gematria and only use gematria and say, oh, see, there it is. Because gematria can be used in any sort of way, you guys. You got to know how to use gematria in order to do it correctly. And nobody in this day and age knows how to do that. Gematria is an ancient style of numerology that we just don't have access to right now, you guys. Okay, that's all I got for you guys right now. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. My brother opened the scroll. I really appreciate the scripture as well. We will be back on here with another broadcast here shortly. Shalom, shalom, family.